Oh boy. So this is going to be a juicy one. There's been a lot of discussion lately, a lot of buzz about the economy, about how inflation is out of control, how screwed up the job market is, and how small businesses are struggling to survive while corporations like Walmart and Amazon report record high sales year after year. And in many ways, these topics are all interconnected, and they're very complex. There's a lot of factors that play into them. But there is one thing that is contributing to this in a major way, and nobody seems to really be talking about it. It's outrageous, but a lot of people have never even maybe heard of it, and it's called private equity. Private equity is an investment strategy often used by wealthy people who want to invest a large sum of money in hopes of making a quick return. And the way that they do this is they hand their money off to private equity firms who invest that money on their behalf, most often by buying up businesses using leverage and then flipping those businesses for a profit after a few years. And if none of that made any sense to you, hang tight and I will explain. Let's say I'm super rich and I want to invest $1 million. And let's say 9 other super rich people want to do the same thing. So we all give our $1 million to a private equity firm, and now they're managing $10 million. And let's say they decide to invest that $10 million into buying, like a chain of coffee shops, for example. But that chain of coffee shops costs $30 million. So what do? They go to the bank and they take out a business loan for the other $20 million. And then collectively they have $30 million and they go and they buy that business. But this is a finance firm. They don't care at all about coffee, they just want to make money. So their actual goal is to be able to resell this business to another investor in a few years so that they can repay that business loan and then share the profits amongst all their investors. And of course they take a cut as well. It works pretty much exactly the same way as flipping a house, where you would have a down payment, you take out a mortgage for the rest, you would resell the house at a profit and then pay back the mortgage and keep the difference. Same idea. But we all know how house flipping works. Houses don't just double in value by themselves overnight. Typically, renovations need to happen. And house flippers are notorious for doing the worst renovations possible, the shoddiest, cheapest, crappiest work, all to give the appearance that they've done something to create value. I think the expression is putting lipstick on a pig.
Floor feels a little gritty here.
Yeah, we ran out of floorboards there, so we painted the dirt. Pretty clever.
Well, private equity firms do the exact same thing to businesses. So in this example, if they wanted to resell that chain of coffee shops for, let's say, $40 million in a few years, they're gonna have to make some changes which will increase the revenue so the cafes are worth more. So what do? First, they raise prices. So your $5 coffee now costs $6.50. Then they cut employee benefits. So things like health insurance, paid sick leave, all that kind of stuff, gotta go, saves them a couple $100,000 a year. Wage increases, definitely being frozen, staffing hours, definitely being reduced. And with all of this, the friendly baristas who work at this cafe, who know you by name, who make your latte perfectly every morning, they get pissed off, and understandably, they leave. But the corporation doesn't care, because they can just hire new people and pay them even less. So that's exactly what they do. The new staff is inexperienced and incompetent, and the cafe is now lined up out the door because they've cut labor hours and are perpetually understaffed. And worst of all is that your $6.50 coffee doesn't even taste good anymore because the corporation has switched from using a premium local coffee roaster to just some mass-produced crap which costs less but tastes terrible. Feeling fed up, you as a customer are like, you know what, screw this, I'm just gonna go to a different coffee shop down the road. And you do. But psych, because they're owned by private equity as well. And you'll never know it because the name and the branding and everything on the exterior stays the same. But instead of the cafe being run by people who care about coffee and care about the customer experience, it's just being run by finance bros whose only goal is to pump and dump it. Now, depending on how you feel about coffee shops, this might sound terrible to you, or you may not care at all, and that's totally okay. Except that this isn't just happening to coffee shops. It's happening to everything. We're talking restaurants and bars, hair and nail salons, apartment buildings, stores of all kinds, gyms, yoga studios, and even doctor's offices. Yes, you heard that right. There's a very good chance that your doctor, your dentist, your therapist, your pharmacist, your local hospital, and even the veterinary clinic you take your animals to is owned by private equity. And if it's not, it probably will be in the next few years.
Uh-oh.
Think for just a moment about the possible downsides of a medical practice being owned by a soulless corporation whose only goal is to squeeze every possible dollar out of it. Think about a medical office where the policies and decisions are made not by a doctor, but by an investment firm. Do you see a problem with that? 'Cause I sure do. And I mean, I'm not naive. I understand that money is important in every business, but there are certain industries where certain limitations need to be in place. When your doctor is owned and controlled by a money-hungry corporation, here are just a few of the things that could happen. Increased rates for appointments, prescription slips, referrals, procedures, pretty much everything. Upselling and overprescribing services, tests, medications. Reduced office hours causing longer wait times. Like maybe before you could get an appointment in a few days, but now they're booking 2 to 3 weeks ahead. This is something that I myself experienced firsthand recently. I haven't actually had a family doctor since I aged out of pediatrics like 20 years ago. But earlier this summer, I had a few small little health things pop up. I was like, you know what? It's time. I need to find myself a doctor. So I spent a full week calling and emailing every single doctor's office within like an hour of me before I was able to finally find one who was accepting new patients. And I was like, okay, great. Can I book an appointment? And they were like, yes, no problem. We're booking 6 weeks ahead. What? Like, even for just a regular checkup, 6 weeks is pretty ridiculous. But if I'm actually sick, what good is 6 weeks actually going to do me? Unfortunately, this is a common occurrence, and it's only getting worse. But today's sponsor, ZocDoc, is working to change that. ZocDoc is a free app and website where you can search for doctors of all kinds and instantly book appointments, typically within 24 to 72 hours, and sometimes even on the same day. We're talking in-network appointments with over 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty. Doctors, dentists, mental health, optometry, dermatology, you name it, they have it. You can search based on your location and find highly rated doctors who can help with whatever your medical needs may be. Then you can see their actual appointment openings right there and book an appointment instantly directly within the app. It couldn't be easier, and it's totally free. So stop putting off your doctor's appointments. Head over to ZocDoc.com/accordingtoNicole or click the link in the description box down below to find a highly rated doctor in your area and book an appointment today. That's ZocDoc.com/accordingtoNicole, and thank you ZocDoc for sponsoring this video. The scary reality is that private equity firms own pretty much everything. They own companies that you've likely never heard of, who are the parent companies of other companies you've probably never heard of, who own companies you've definitely heard of, as well as small local businesses all over. Seriously, if you look up any business, you will likely find that they are at least partly owned by one of a few really large private equity firms or hedge funds, which are similarly awful. Companies like the Carlyle Group, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, Blackstone, don't ask me what the difference is between them, State Street, Berkshire Partners, just to name a few.
Oh hey, editing Nicole here. Just wanted to take a quick moment to point out the fact that a lot of these private equity firms seem to use a pirate ship as their logo. Is it just me, or is that a little bit ironic? I wonder what it could signify.
And I mean, as a small business owner, I kind of get it. Like, if I was in the market to sell my business and a private equity firm came along and they were like, hey, we're going to write you a giant check, we're going to handle all the logistics and all the legalities, and we're going to buy you out, I'd be hard-pressed to say no as well. But from the consumer side of things, and for society overall, it's terrible. And well, you know how I used that house flipper analogy before? Well, turns out it wasn't just an analogy, because in addition to businesses, private equity firms are also buying up apartment buildings, condos, and even single-family homes with the intention of turning them into rentals or flipping them for a profit. And once again, they have no interest in trying to actually provide people with housing. They're just trying to make a shit ton of money. So you can bet that rents will be high, maintenance will be lacking, and most concerningly is that unlike small individual investors, these companies have enough capital, they have enough buying power, that they can actually single-handedly change the housing market in an entire area or even an entire city. That is wild. And just like with the coffee shop example, they don't really have any competitors because they own all their own competitors. You know Zillow, right? That website that we all use to be nosy and find out how much our friends and family paid for their homes? Well, Zillow happens to be owned by a number of private equity firms, namely Caledonia Investments, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, and a bunch of others. And between 2019 and 2022, they bought up over 32,000 single-family homes in America for a collective $6 billion, with the intention of making some very quick changes and then flipping them for a profit. Now, naturally, normal people like you and I could never afford to compete with or outbid a corporation like Zillow when trying to buy a home. So they snapped up a bunch of homes from prospective buyers, from people who just wanted somewhere to live with their family, and then attempted to resell them at an inflated price point. I am very happy to report, though, that when interest rates started to rise and the housing market started to cool off, Zillow got left holding the bag, and they actually lost over $300 million in this scheme. So, sucks to suck. Here in Canada, as well as in the US, there has been a massive influx in the last few years of PE firms buying up dental offices, veterinary clinics, optometrists, and pharmacies. And the results have been largely disastrous. Previously, if somebody graduated from dentistry school or optometry school or whatever else, they would take a job working with another doctor for a little while before branching out and starting their own practice. Or if their boss was nearing retirement, maybe they'd even buy out their clinic from them. But private equity firms have created bidding wars for these businesses that new grads could never dream of competing with. So instead, pharmacists and doctors and whatever, they're forced to just take jobs working for these corporations where they have no control over running their business the way that they want to, in the way that it should be run. They can't make important decisions that they're qualified to make, they can't determine the standard of care they want to provide, and they can't stop the corporation from raising rates over and over again and just completely exploiting the public. Understandably, this is a problem in every industry, but with healthcare, it's unacceptable.
How many opioids would you like?
I don't want any.
Oh, come on, you've got to be dependent on something.
And if you think that I'm exaggerating when I say that private equity owns literally everything, here are some depressing examples. CNN is owned by Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers is owned by AT&T. AT&T is majority owned by Vanguard Group, BlackRock, State Street, and a few other firms. Fox News, on the other hand, is part owned by, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, State Street, and a few others. Yes, you heard that right. Across the aisle my ass. Oh, and MSNBC is owned by Comcast. And Comcast's largest shareholders are, you guessed it, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, State Street, and a few others. Have you woken up yet? Let's switch directions here for just a moment. Coca-Cola is majority owned by Berkshire Partners, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, State Street, and a few other firms, in that order. But PepsiCo is owned by, Vanguard Group, BlackRock, State Street, and a few others in that order. Here in Canada, veterinary clinics are being bought up by the mass by 3 corporations. One is called Vet Strategy, and they are owned by Berkshire Partners. The second is called VCA Canada, which is actually owned by Mars, as in Mars Chocolate Bars, the candy company, who shockingly is not owned by private equity, but still owned by the Mars family after all these years, who happen to be worth a whopping $117 billion US. And the third company is called NVA, who is owned by Ares Management, which is, of course, a private equity firm. And if you think for a moment that any of these companies give a flying fuck about the health or well-being of your animals, well, I want a bit of whatever you're smoking. I could go on forever here, but I'll spare you. The point that I'm trying to drive home is that when people say that the entire world is owned and controlled by just a few companies, they are not exaggerating, and they are not spreading wild conspiracy theories. They are stating the goddamn objective truth, and it's terrifying. It's called an oligopoly, which is kind of like a monopoly, but with more than one. And it should be illegal, but of course it's not, all thanks to lobbyists. Lobbyists pay off politicians so that they can continue to do whatever they want with complete impunity, regardless of how it affects the economy, the environment, the public, or the world as a whole. And as a result, we're all getting screwed, big time.
Family, religion, friendship. These are the 3 demons you must slay if you wish to succeed in business.
Now, this is the part of the video where I feel like I'm supposed to offer some sort of clever advice or solution. But I have none. The world is going to shit, and it's in large thanks to private equity firms. And most people don't even know it's happening. Many people have never even heard of private equity, and trust that they like it that way, because there should be public outrage. But I guess as the saying goes, if you're not angry, you're not paying attention. Okay, that's all I got. I need to go calm down now. Like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram, whatever. I think I need a drink. I don't even really drink, but maybe I should.